If you're grown up playing video games, you've probably had to bear with your parents telling you in all manners of assorted ways how video games brought you. One more believable than the last, no doubt. If not, then believe me when I say that the envy of all of those who had to deal with that fall upon you. You'd be crushed into a paper-thin pancake along with the rest of the planet. Gaming is really everywhere now, and despite the wide range of opinions of others, I have to say it's an art form that I truly respect. I was a gamer. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. 2 unreasonably large monitors, idolizing Ninja, a desk setup that would give anyone with epilepsy an instant seizure, a pair of headphones that looked like they were meant to protect my ears from the sound of large-scale kiloton explosions, wasting an entire weekend editing my dumbass Fortnite gameplay like it was a would-be Hollywood masterpiece, when in reality, getting people to watch it would be hard enough when it was free, let alone if you charged them. I also like playing classic games on the side, on my dad's old NES and SNES, which in my mind balanced me out by negating the effects of modern media, and this somehow made me a more well-rounded individual, but which in all likelihood didn't do shit. But I digress. You, the listener, might be wondering by now why I refer to my gaming self in the past tense. Well, that's because what I mentioned above is in the past. I am 18 years old as of writing this. I haven't gamed in almost 3 years. So, what do you think happened? Did I get addicted and shipped off by my parents to an institution to get cleansed? No. Before you jump the gun, I have to stop you right now and just say that no, I did not get scared straight, as some parents like to say. I mean, at least not in that traditional sense. The event in question happened around April 2020. Lockdown. I was a stupid ass 16-year-old, and to me, lockdown was a blessing from God. I had been constantly nagging him for only he knows how long. I had limited free time to game to my heart's content, and I resolved that I would make my gaming channel with a grand total of 5 subscribers, all of whom I knew in real life, take off and join the ranks of Ninja, Markiplier, make millions, quit school, and prove to my dumb parents, who I love very much now, how profitable gaming was, and how I wasn't just rotting my brain this whole time. See, I wasn't exaggerating when I said I was a stupid ass 16-year-old. So instead of doing my fucking homework, all of my time was spent screen recording the worst gameplay at Fortnite and PUBG imaginable, while my crackling voice commented and screamed every once in a while, editing random and sudden zoomed in clips, making unfunny jokes and, Christ, you get the picture. Anyhow, despite the 2 months of effort, I had made a grand total of $1 from all my videos combined, and gained only 1 subscriber, who I also knew in real life. Needless to say, I was disheartened. Was this the moment I stopped being a gamer? Was what scared me straight the cruel dream-destroying reality of this world? Nope. I wasn't ready to give up. I still blindly believed in my dream. School had just ended and I decided that my summer that year would be spent giving gaming my all, again. After all, I had to justify all the F's I had somehow gotten. Anyway, I remember laying on my bed one random day and thinking hard, quite the challenge for little 16-year-old me. I knew I had to get subscribers. I knew that to get subscribers, I needed to do something niche, something that no one else was really doing, if at all. Something unique that was sure to gain a following, and that no one else could copy. As I laid in bed, it suddenly hit me. I should play games that no one else is playing. But by that, I don't mean games that aren't popular. I mean games that no one else had access to. It was around that evening when I logged into the dark web, through Tor. Now, before I continue, I must explain something about the dark web. 99% of what you heard about it, on whatever creepy ass animated story or fake creepypasta you listen to, is false. I hope you're not surprised. They're false because they portray the dark web as a minefield that will pretty much fuck you up immediately. A place full of drugs and hitmen and fucked up individuals. While you can find those things on there, you just don't stumble onto them as a first timer like all these stories talk about. They're right about the list of .onion links. They randomly clicked a link and found themselves in a digital hell of some kind. The dark web, if I had to compare it to something, is a lot like 4chan. Just an endless collection of message boards. It's actually pretty boring, because you can't just access the hard drugs and hitman and the snuff videos right off the bat. It's like being admitted into a secret society. The ones who are in scope you out after you show an interest on the message board and determine whether or not they should let you in. Then they basically hack into your private life for two reasons. 1. To make sure you're someone that can be trusted. 2. To use it as leverage in case you decide to snitch. Besides that, it's just weirdos talking on forums about whatever bullshit's going on in their mind while you're just ordering some weed. Basic stuff really. Well, I'm no script kiddie, so needless to say, I knew my way pretty well around these parts. I used a non-window operating system, disabled all my scripts and flash, booted up Tails, had a custom VPN I had someone whip up for me, the whole 100 yards. On this day in question, a hot summer day, I logged into a chat room and posted a query asking about interesting games I could play. Shit that I couldn't find on Steam or on the surface web. The conversation went something like this. Yo, I'm looking for some interesting video games to play. Shit you can only find here, in this part of the internet. It wasn't long before I received a message back from some dude with the handle, John. What do you mean? I've got a fucking game addiction, and stuff on stream no longer floats my boat. I want to know if I can find any good stuff here. Ah, interesting. I can tell that you're an amateur. Mine is script kiddie. As you know, games are an expression of humanity, as is this corner of the internet. People want to express themselves, but sometimes those expressions are not appreciated on the surface web, so they post their artwork here, where like-minded individuals dwell. Games are no exception. I can send you a link if you want. What, you gonna show me some sad Satan shit? I already know about that, bro. Stupid ass fucking game. And I don't want my precious PC to get any fucking viruses from something a damn fucking plebe made. No. This is the real deal. The community suffered quite a reputation blow from that leak of the game. A real piece of shit made by a real piece of shit who had no feel for art. Luckily, its developers have been working hard to cleanse the palates of us from that shitfest. Are you still interested? Of course. And just like that, he sent me a link and logged off. Christ, this link was something I had never seen before. It was a .onion link, but everything before that was just a jumbled mess of letters, words, numbers, digits, random punctuation marks, and a few weird-ass lines that made text distorted. It wasn't much of a link, as it was a paragraph of the strangest collections of text imaginable. I'm sure everyone listening to this knows where this is fucking going. With absolutely no fucking hesitation, and I'm talking very literal, no exaggeration manner, I clicked on the link, and just like that, I unwittingly stepped into hell. Just like so many unfortunate protagonists of all this fake dark web stories. The website took 3 solid Mississippi seconds to load, and did so just as I was about to opt out. Just thinking about it gives me the impression that the damn thing knew I was about to leave and didn't want me to. The screen immediately went black, and just when regret was about to hit me, a text box came up. Welcome, dear player, to our humble website. We appreciate your patronage and hope that you will be able to enjoy our extensive collection of free games made by the finest in the industry. Happy playthrough, sincerely, Mod. This message made me feel uncomfortable. I know, right? countless times wafting through the cesspool of humankind, and a polite message is what gets under my skin. My parents were asleep. I drank a can of Monster and a can of Red Bull, and I was given the prospect of entertainment until dawn, and so I took it. I clicked on the search bar, but saw that I couldn't really actually search anything. Instead, a list of categories popped up. What were the categories? Raped? Murder? Torture porn? Nope, none of those. Every single one, plain as can be. POV, action, suspense, that kind of stuff. You could select multiple categories and hit search. I chose the following combination for my first game. 2D, detective, mystery, choice-based. Simple, right? I pressed enter and waited. It seemed to last forever, but finally, the turning wheel of loading disappeared and I was met with a retro home screen. The title read, in all caps, Interrogation of Phineas Wheatley, in a strangely well-chosen color palette that didn't make me want to vomit. Needless to say, 16-year-old me was stoked. I thought I'd just hit the video game jackpot. Fantastic games too niche for mainstream, all at my fingertips for absolutely free. In case you've been wondering, no, I don't have any footage of these games. My plan was to master the game and then record it so I wouldn't embarrass myself like I had done before. Yes, I do regret it tremendously, but what are you gonna do? Sue me? This game, unlike the standard NES one, allowed me to use my mouse. So with that, I clicked start. The screen went black. A new image loaded on my monitor. The one that was logged in, the dark web. It looked like a photograph, which had been pixelated. Imagine the ending picture on the original Resident Evil 2 on PS1, which shows what happened to all the characters after the main storyline concludes, and that will give you a pretty good idea of what I saw. A young man with a poker face seemed to be sitting before a metal table, utterly motionless. Below him was the word, ask him. Without warning, two black bars with white letters appeared under it. The one on the left read, why he called you here, while the one on the right read, how he's feeling. I was dumbfounded, so I just clicked the option on the right because I was curious. The two bars along with ask him disappeared, and a large rectangular speech bubble with an arrow pointed at Phineas's mouth replaced them. I'm feeling fine, detective. Thank you for showing concern and arriving so quickly. The large speech bubble disappeared, and the ask him prompt came back up again. By now, there was only one bar under it. The one that said, why he called you there. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't intrigued at that moment. I'd been expecting to come across some sort of sad Satan clone, or morbid images, or whatever shit idiots think would be fitting for the dark web. Instead, I had seemingly stumbled upon a hidden gem. I clicked the bar and the speech bubble came right back up. I know I'm gonna die, detective. I know he would kill me. I find it only appropriate that I give my last confession before I'm taken. The speech box disappeared and two bars came up. The one on the right read, who he thinks wants to kill him. The one on the left read, why he killed Sam. I was tempted to choose right, but I just really wanted to get things over with. The following are the responses I chose and his answers. Why he killed Sam. As you very well know, Sam was my first time. I wanted my first time to be special, so I chose Sam, because he was special. It was that simple. How he killed Sam. Come on, detective. Surely you know already. How did he kill Sam? Alright, as you wish. I knew Sam lived home alone, so I enacted my perfect murder. The perfect murder isn't about how you kill someone. It's about how you cover it up. And I knew that disposal would be my biggest problem. So I planned things out. I started to work at the taxidermy shop in town with my son. under this guise that I would be a good supporter for him, to get some good extracurricular activity for his college applications. Mr. Flank, the owner of the shop, mainly made animal skeleton models and shipped them internationally to institutes of education. You know how he'd extract the bones so cleanly. There are special beetles called dermestid beetles that eat only the flesh. People like Mr. Flank have entire containers full of them. They just throw in the carcass part and wait for the beetles to eat it clean. I found a big enough tray and stole some of the beetle eggs from Mr. Flank. I raised them all on my own patiently. Once they were fully grown, I put it out on Craigslist for a child skeleton model. After all that was said and done, I just lured Sam down, killed him, and threw him into the vat. A week I waited, and the beetles had done their job. I then shipped the skeleton off and out of joy for good. Simple as that. I then burned the beetles along with Sam's clothes, buried his organs out in the forest along with a few worms for good measure. And that was that. It was as if nothing ever happened. How do you get caught? Just thinking about it makes me mad. Turns out you have to use hydrogen peroxide to preserve the bones so they don't yellow over time. What happened in my case is that the person who received the skeleton was a medical expert and immediately realized that he had just received a real child skeleton. The rest, I'm sure you know. A fun experiment that ended up biting me in the ass. The bar on the right disappeared and the remaining bar now read, "Why he needed to speak to you." This is the response I got. You see, detective, I am afraid I've been a tad dishonest with everyone. I'll cut to the chase, and I'll say that little Sam wasn't my first, nor my second, nor my third. He was number 21. Normally, I just cut up the bones and bury them. Sam, on the other hand, was a special case, as I thought it would be a neat idea for me to ship my friends out. But alas, look at where it got me. Another tab comes up. Where the hell are the others? I'll be frying tomorrow, so I might as well say, I ain't telling you squat, Chief. Just wanted you to know, you can doubt me, but you can't doubt all of those missing posters. I am a fair man, however, and I will say that I've mapped out all of their coordinates on a special sheet of paper that you can only find in Genesis. That's all, detective. The screen immediately went black, leaving me in total darkness for a moment. When it came back up, I saw that the style of game had changed. It now looked like Earthbound. I saw what looked like a stereotypical detective, trench coat and a hat and all, standing outside what seemed like a police station. The palette of my surroundings was dark blue, and it appeared to be raining heavily. I used my keyboard and found that I could move around by pressing the standard arrow keys. On the far corner of the screen was an arrow that pointed to something beyond it, and I followed it. I found myself being guided through a deserted town, and without warning, the arrow suddenly pointed up. It was a house, a really quaint house. I entered it, and the screen went black for a moment before I found myself inside the house, and I had to say, it was a real pig hut. It gave off the impression of a drug den, a place even pigs wouldn't want to live in. I walked around and found that I could explore the whole house. The arrow was gone at this point, so I have no clue where I'm supposed to go next. But as I passed through a hanging portrait, the only decent thing in the whole place, a prompt appeared imploring me to inspect it. I did so, and a pixelated photograph appeared, just like how the game was before. It showed a middle-aged man that I immediately recognized as Phineas. He was standing behind a younger man who looked a bit like him, albeit younger. I understood now that I was in his house, and it didn't take me long to realize that the basement was where I needed to go. I found another door, and I was able to enter it. Now I was in a large and dark basement. It was completely and utterly silent. throughout the entire game, but I only noticed it at this point. I walked around for a bit, but no prompt appeared. But then I noticed a container, a large sprawling one, right in the middle of the room, and it caught my eye. I approached it, and a long-awaited prompt appeared. I pressed it, but then, without warning, another sprite suddenly came out of nowhere. The screen went black, and I found myself in the same style of gameplay as before. I recognized the sprite that appeared before me as Phineas's son. The prompt read, "What are you doing here?" There was only one bar, which is the one I clicked. I came here to find the truth. The screen went black for a second, and the image changed. I was now facing the container. The screen went black for another second, and the container was open in the picture that came up. Even though it was pixelated, the detail almost made me vomit. It was another body, fresh, covered with what I assumed to be beetles. A single white piece of paper lay in it. The screen went black, and I could now see the paper. There were locations and coordinates on the paper, about 5. The screen went black, and now I was facing Phineas's son again. But now he was holding a gun pointed right at me. "I knew Daddy wouldn't go quietly like I wanted him to," he said. "And while I'm sorry for doing this, Mr. Forum, I would be remiss if I didn't reiterate that, unlike my father, I'm not made for jail. I take after my mother after all." The screen went orange, then blank. 2 prompts appeared. Play again, and exit. I clicked exit. I laid back in my chair and let everything that happened sink in. It was really like a high, like drinking yourself to a stupor on good alcohol instead of the cheap kind. It felt good, but I had this feeling that ruined the particular high for me. This gnawing feeling that I just had to act on if I wanted to relax. I went to another monitor, the one logged onto the surface web, and typed in Phineas Wheatley in Google. I just expected some forum links discussing the game, but instead I got an eyeful of news reports and archives about Phineas Wheatley, the Granville Flesh Reaper. I read everything. I read how he killed the local sweet innocent boy, and it nearly got away with a perfect crime. I read how the detective who last spoke with him has never been found, and I read how he was survived by his son, Michael Wheatley, who preferred to stay anonymous. My high went from me feeling as though my skull was full of clouds to feeling like my brain had been replaced by a bowling ball. I rubbed my eyes hard and wondered what I should do. Those coordinates were surely fake, I told myself. Just a fan fiction of a serial killer. That's all there was to it. Like a junkie for a fix, I was hungry for more. My senses were screaming at me, but I refused to listen. I typed in 3D POV suspense exploration. I hit enter just like before. My screen went black before a menu popped up. Voyeurs POV. The only other thing was the start button, which I also clicked with no hesitation. The screen went dark, and the loading wheel appeared with the words, "Searching for a server," below it. I waited, honestly oblivious to what I was about to be thrown into. The spinning loading wheel disappeared, and a view appeared on my monitor. It was a first-person perspective of a backyard at night. At the bottom of the screen, there was a piece of text which read, "Quebec, Canada." I'm ashamed to admit it, but I really did feel intrigued, especially how realistic the graphics looked to me. Not just for a free game on the internet, but for a video game in general. I tried moving around the mouse and keyboard keys, but nothing worked. It was only then when I noticed the bar at the bottom of the screen, a text bar. In that text bar, I, without much thought, typed in, "Go to shed." To my surprise, the camera turned and started moving towards the shed in the far corner of the yard. I typed, "Open shed," and a gloved hand appeared on the screen and opened it. Enter shed. Take dagger. Exit shed. It felt exhilarating. Much better than Until Dawn, a true update from the old text adventure games. The character was doing everything I told him. Enter house. Go upstairs. The camera followed all of my commands. I was in the bedroom now. A girl about my age, the one I'd seen in the family pictures on my way up the stairs, laying before me. She seemed so real on my screen that I had to blink. A prompt came up at that very moment as I sat in my dark room. End it. Right now, all I can do is swear on my honor, my life, and the lives of my entire family that I thought it was a prompt that meant to end the game. That and that only is why I typed yes. The power plug on my monitor was pulled out not a moment after I witnessed the gloved hand plunge the knife deep into the chest of the girl. The last thing I saw on that damn thing were her eyes fluttering open in an instant, like a dam that held back the contagious fear that no one, certainly not her, should ever feel. On the floor I collapsed, and on the floor I cried, and on the floor I slept. The last thought that went through my head before I lost consciousness was, it's just a game. But my nightmare certainly didn't want me to believe that. I awoke in the morning about 4 hours later, and I barely had enough strength to stand up. Seeing my monitors made tears come to my eyes again, and I still didn't know why. I tried to calm down, and thought I knew a perfect way to do so. I turned on the monitor and hopped on Google again. My previous search related to Phineas Wheatley, inflicting a whole other wave of disgust back. I just searched Quebec, Canada, and went to news. And what do you think I found was the top story? A news article featured the house I had seen that night in the game. Only now, it was covered by police tape, and one of the family photographs I had seen inside the house while climbing along the staircase glared at me behind my screen. The girl, smiling brightly in the photograph, had been killed, survived by the others in the pictures. I know I'm next if I report this. I know they know everything they need to know about me. All I can do now before I turn in the evidence is to be a son that my parents can be proud of, so that when I'm taken, I can at least leave knowing that their time raising me had not been a waste. To you, you know who you are reading this. It has already been done. There's nothing you can do. Your operation will receive a blow, much like Playpen. I'm ready for you. Just please don't go after my loved ones. They have nothing to do with this. If you can promise me that, I'll go quietly. Mom, Dad, I'm sorry. Love, James.